Early arcade and Nintendo era. The first officially licensed WWF video games appeared at the tail end of the 1980s. These titles were basic by modern standards, but they laid the foundation for wrestling on home consoles and in arcades. WWF WrestleMania released on the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, in 1989. It featured 6 wrestlers: Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, Ted DiBiase, Bam Bam Bigelow, and Honky Tonk Man. Matches were one-on-one only with no tag team options. Each wrestler had a slightly different moveset, but the action was limited to strikes, grapples, and a few signature flourishes. The graphics were primitive, with large sprites and simple animations, but this was the first time fans could play as WWF stars on a home console. In 1990, WWF WrestleMania Challenge expanded the formula. It introduced isometric ring graphics instead of a flat side view, which allowed for 8-directional movement around the ring. It included new names such as Ultimate Warrior, Big Boss Man, and Brutus Beefcake, alongside returning stars like Hogan and Savage. This title also allowed for tag team matches, making it a more faithful recreation of televised WWF programming. In 1992, WWF Steel Cage Challenge arrived on the NES. The standout feature was the addition of a steel cage match on NES, the first WWF cage option on that platform. The roster was a mix of top stars of the early 1990s, including Hogan, Savage, Bret Hart, and The Undertaker. Despite the small movesets, the ability to climb and escape the cage gave the game a unique selling point compared to its predecessors. Meanwhile, the arcades were delivering faster, more visually appealing experiences. WWF Superstars, released in 1989, was a 2-on-2 tag team brawler. Players could choose from 6 characters and fight in matches that emphasized fast action and flashy animations. Its success led to WWF WrestleFest in 1991, which improved on the formula with larger character sprites, better sound, and more match types. WrestleFest became a fan favorite for its Royal Rumble mode, which let multiple wrestlers cycle into the match until one remained. These early titles established the essential building blocks of wrestling games: recognizable rosters, match variety, and special modes that reflected real WWF programming. They were limited by hardware, but they proved the demand for wrestling as a video game genre and set the stage for the 16-bit era that followed. 16-bit era, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis. When wrestling reached the 16-bit generation, the games began to look and sound closer to the television product. Both Nintendo's Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or SNES, and the Sega Genesis hosted WWF titles, with each version differing slightly in rosters and gameplay. WWF Super WrestleMania released in 1992 on both SNES and Genesis. The graphics improved noticeably, with larger wrestler sprites and more detailed arenas. The SNES version offered a roster with signature moves for each wrestler, while the Genesis version had a different lineup but did not include character-specific finishers. Match types were limited to singles and tag bouts, but this was the first WWF console game where the presentation felt close to a broadcast. WWF Royal Rumble followed in 1993 on both systems. It introduced the Royal Rumble match as a playable option, allowing multiple wrestlers to cycle in until only one remained. Players could throw opponents over the top rope, recreating the elimination format from pay-per-view. The roster included big names of the era such as Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, and Razor Ramon, though the lineup differed slightly between the SNES and Genesis releases. The control scheme expanded with tie-ups and grapples that determined move outcomes based on timed button presses. In 1994, WWF Raw built further on this template. It expanded the roster again with stars like Owen Hart, 1-2-3 Kid, and Yokozuna. The game featured singles, tag team, Survivor Series elimination matches, and Royal Rumble, making it the most complete WWF game of the 16-bit era. New mechanics included illegal tactics such as eye gouges and chokeholds, plus a stamina meter that gradually slowed wrestlers down as they absorbed punishment. Each character had a wider range of signature moves, giving the matches more variety. Finally, in 1995, WWF WrestleMania. The arcade game launched on SNES, Genesis, PlayStation, and arcade cabinets. Developed by Midway, it borrowed heavily from fighting games like Mortal Kombat, featuring exaggerated cartoonish attacks such as The Undertaker striking opponents with a tombstone or Doink the Clown using a giant mallet. The gameplay was fast and over-the-top rather than simulation-based, and it stood apart from the other titles of the generation. These 16-bit games brought more authentic rosters, signature moves, and match variety, moving WWF video games closer to the feel of the actual product, while still experimenting with arcade-style gameplay on the side. And if you're into seeing gaming history broken down like this, make sure you're subscribed. We've got plenty more moments just like this coming up. PlayStation and Nintendo 64 era. The mid to late 1990s saw WWF games make the jump into 3D as the first PlayStation and Nintendo 64 consoles arrived. Each platform took a different approach, with Acclaim handling the PlayStation titles and THQ partnering with Japanese developers for the Nintendo 64 releases. WWF in Your House came out in 1996 for PlayStation, Sega Saturn, and PC. It followed the over-the-top arcade style of WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game, but was developed for home systems by Sculptured Software. Wrestlers performed over-the-top special moves, and the arenas were themed after the characters such as Bret Hart's Dungeon or Shawn Michaels' Nightclub. The gameplay was fast and chaotic, closer to a traditional fighting game than a wrestling simulation. WWF Warzone, released in 1998 for PlayStation and Nintendo 64, marked the first attempt at a 3D simulation of WWF television. Developed by Iguana West and published by Acclaim, it introduced full entrances, a create-a-wrestler mode, and commentary by Vince McMahon and Jim Ross. Matches included singles, tag team, cage, and weapons-based brawls. The control system used combination inputs for grapples, requiring players to memorize sequences to perform specific moves. In 1999, WWF Attitude expanded on Warzone with a larger roster that reflected the peak of the Attitude Era. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Mankind, and Undertaker headlined a lineup of over 40 wrestlers. It added a career mode where players worked through house shows, Raw tapings, and pay-per-views. The combo-based grapple system remained, but the presentation became closer to live WWF broadcasts with updated arenas and more commentary lines. Nintendo 64 players received a different lineage. WWF WrestleMania 2000, released in late 1999, was developed by AKI Corporation, the team behind the acclaimed WCW NWO Revenge. It featured a deep create-a-wrestler system, branching storylines, and a smoother grappling engine based on timing rather than memorized button strings. The roster mirrored the company's active lineup, and the pacing of matches was slower and more deliberate, echoing real televised matches. That foundation was perfected in 2000 with WWF No Mercy, also on Nintendo 64. Widely regarded as one of the greatest wrestling games ever made, it offered an extensive season mode with branching feuds, unlockable wrestlers, and story outcomes that change depending on wins or losses. The Create-a-Wrestler suite included customizable entrances, moves, and attire. Its grappling system emphasized momentum, reversals, and stamina, producing matches that closely resembled live wrestling psychology. Even decades later, No Mercy remained a benchmark for the genre. This era was defined by two competing visions. Acclaim's PlayStation titles pushed presentation and commentary, while THQ and AKI on Nintendo 64 focused on mechanics, depth, and replay value. Both set the stage for the next generation, but No Mercy in particular became the gold standard. PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox era. With the sixth console generation, WWF WWE games moved into fuller 3D engines that supported larger rosters, deeper modes, and more lifelike presentation. THQ led publishing with Yuke's handling most development, while each console received its own take on the product. WWF SmackDown. Just Bring It launched in late 2001 on PlayStation 2. It was the first wrestling game on the new system, supported up to 8 wrestlers on screen in certain modes, and introduced full play-by-play commentary by Michael Cole and Taz. The season mode remained short, using brief branching paths rather than a year-long career. On GameCube, WWE WrestleMania 18 released in 2002. It delivered faster, arcade-leaning matches with short bout times and simplified inputs. In 2003, WWE WrestleMania 19 refined the animations and added a revenge mode, where players completed objective-based scenarios outside traditional matches, including backstage ambushes and arena sabotage. Xbox received WWE Raw in 2002 and WWE Raw 2 in 2003. These entries showcased high-detail character models and strong lighting for the time, but were criticized for slower, less responsive gameplay. Raw 2 added a season framework and deeper multiplayer customization, yet lagged behind the speed and depth of the SmackDown series. The PlayStation 2 standout was WWE SmackDown. Shut Your Mouth in 2002. It introduced a fuller season mode tied to the brand split, pay-per-view cycles, and an expanded Create-a-Wrestler suite. In 2003, WWE SmackDown. Here Comes the Pain became one of the most acclaimed wrestling games to date, adding a limb-based body damage system, grappling transitions, interactive backstage brawls, and a roster stacked with Brock Lesnar, Goldberg, and Kurt Angle. Its balance of simulation detail with fast pacing earned it long-term praise. This period showed each console emphasizing different strengths. Xbox prioritized graphics, GameCube experimented with unique modes, and PlayStation 2 delivered the most complete package through SmackDown's season depth and match feel. SmackDown vs. Raw era. In 2004, the SmackDown franchise dropped its numbered subtitles and relaunched as WWE SmackDown vs. Raw on PlayStation 2. This began a yearly series that ran through 2010, spanning the end of the PlayStation 2's life cycle and into the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PlayStation Portable. Each release refined the formula while experimenting with features that fans either embraced or rejected. The original SmackDown vs. Raw in 2004 introduced voice cutscenes for wrestlers, a clean, dirty momentum system that affected match strategy, and the series' first online option. On PlayStation 2, online play was limited to a small set of modes, including singles and bra and panties. SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 followed with one of the series' most beloved additions, General Manager Mode. This feature allowed players to run a WWE brand by booking shows, managing rivalries, and competing against the other brand for ratings. It also revamped the grappling system into 4 categories: power, technical, speed, and submission, giving each wrestler more unique flow. SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 marked the franchise's debut on Xbox 360, featuring higher resolution graphics, environmental grappling near weapons and barricades, and analog stick-based moves that increased interactivity. In 2008, the series expanded into cross-brand storylines by featuring all 3 WWE brands: Raw, SmackDown, and ECW. It added a new struggle submission system using the analog sticks to apply and escape holds. SmackDown vs. Raw 2009 shifted focus toward cooperative storytelling with a co-op Road to WrestleMania mode that allowed 2 players to experience storylines together. This version also streamlined controls to make matches flow more smoothly. By SmackDown vs. Raw 2010, creation tools reached a peak with the introduction of Create a Story, where players could script custom cutscenes and feuds, share them online, and extend replay value far beyond the stock season mode. The final entry, SmackDown vs. Raw 2011, launched in late 2010 and emphasized physics-based gameplay, with weapons and objects reacting more naturally. Tables, ladders, and chairs could now break dynamically rather than through preset animations. The game also added WWE Universe mode, which automatically generated feuds, matches, and storylines based on player actions, laying groundwork for future systems in the 2K era. Over these 7 years, SmackDown vs. Raw became the defining wrestling franchise of its time. It grew more simulation-oriented while still keeping fast action, and its mix of GM mode, story campaigns, and deep creation tools kept fans invested year after year. WWE 12 and WWE 13 transition. After nearly a decade of SmackDown vs. Raw titles, THQ retired the series name in 2011 and replaced it with a new branding. WWE 12, released in November 2011 on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Wii, was presented as a fresh start. It introduced the Predator technology animation system, which smoothed transitions between grapples and strikes. The control scheme simplified combo chains and reversals to make the matches flow more naturally. The Road to WrestleMania story mode returned, now divided into 3 interconnected arcs that let players control multiple wrestlers across a year of programming. The following year, WWE 13 built directly on this foundation, but shifted its presentation to highlight the Attitude Era. The story mode recreated famous moments from the late 1990s and early 2000s, complete with video packages and scripted cutscenes. Matches replicated historic events such as the Austin vs. McMahon rivalry, The Rock vs. Mankind, and D-Generation X's antics. The roster included more than 80 wrestlers, spanning modern talent and Attitude Era icons. The game also expanded creation tools, including more entrance options and community sharing features. These 2 titles marked the end of THQ's stewardship of the series. WWE 12 served as the technical reset, while WWE 13 emphasized nostalgia and presentation. Together, they closed the book on the SmackDown lineage and set the stage for the franchise to be taken over by a new publisher. WWE 2K Era. In early 2013, THQ filed for bankruptcy, and 2K Sports acquired the WWE license. The series was rebranded under the WWE 2K name, beginning with WWE 2K14. Developed by Yuke's and published by 2K, the game carried over much of the WWE 13 framework, but introduced the 30 Years of WrestleMania mode. This mode recreated classic WrestleMania matches from Hulk Hogan's early appearances through modern events, blending video packages with gameplay. The roster exceeded 80 wrestlers and featured improved animations and larger arenas. WWE 2K15, released in 2014 for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, marked the series' debut on the new console generation. The game emphasized realism with slower pacing and a stamina system that forced players to manage energy throughout a match. It also introduced the My Career mode, allowing players to take a created wrestler from NXT through the main roster. However, content was cut compared to earlier entries, and the limited match variety drew criticism. Subsequent titles iterated on this base. WWE 2K16 restored missing features, added a roster of more than 120 wrestlers, and expanded creation options. WWE 2K17 removed the showcase story mode, but added more backstage brawling and crowd-fighting areas. WWE 2K18 and 2K19 refined graphics and introduced the Towers Challenge mode, with 2K19 considered one of the strongest releases of the era due to smoother gameplay and a robust career mode. In 2019, WWE 2K20 released without Yuke's for the first time, as Visual Concepts took over full development. The game shipped with widespread bugs, glitches, and performance issues, leading to poor reviews and community backlash. The backlash was so severe that 2K canceled the annual release in 2020, instead publishing the arcade-style WWE 2K Battlegrounds as a stopgap. After a 2-year break, WWE 2K22 launched in 2022 as a soft reboot. It featured redesigned gameplay, a showcase mode centered on Rey Mysterio, and new modes such as My Faction. Reception was much more positive, restoring fan confidence. 2K23 followed with refinements to the War Games match type and a John Cena showcase, while 2K24 added a showcase of the Immortals, celebrating 40 years of WrestleMania. The most recent entry, WWE 2K25, released on March 14, 2025, with early access on March 7th, and featured a unified My Rise storyline, a new live mode called The Island, updated rosters, and further polish to the creation suite. The 2K era has been defined by both turbulence and recovery. It produced one of the lowest points in the franchise with 2K20, but also rebuilt momentum with 2K22 and its successors, showing how critical stable gameplay and fan trust are to the longevity of the series. If you enjoyed this breakdown, want more deep dives into wrestling's most shocking moments, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.